Hello, welcome to the Stoic Poetry Podcast. My name is Kurt. I'm sitting on an old, dilapidated wicker chair on the top of a ridge in the Anza Desert, directly across from me, quite a few miles, long ways across. I can see the black top of Mount Wilson, where the observatory is. I'm thinking about how that was the spot where humanity gained two fascinating insights. The first, that our Milky Way galaxy wasn't alone. This is the observatory where Edwin Hubble first discovered other galaxies. Imagine that. The second discovery from that mountaintop I'm looking at was that the universe is expanding. Another incredible idea gained from a peak roughly on the same elevation that I'm at now. Okay, a couple thousand feet higher, give that. Anyway, I didn't start this episode to talk about the mountain. Just the thought came to me as I was waiting for the desert to close in around me. I think I can begin. I'm making this episode for a reason. I'm going to turn on my little pen light and step carefully now through the desert. Even though we have a moon, half moon, there's plenty of light. I still can't see the snakes. So excuse the noise if there'll be some crunching along as we make our way on our nighttime desert walk. I decided to make this a special episode of Stoic Poetry because I feel it's time for me to reintroduce myself. So it's been a long time. I've been a long time away from Japan and the environs and the familiar things there, the ways that I used to live, especially the content creator part. I'm also far removed from the content that I created then. I'm a creature of YouTube. My channel, Softypapa, is my home on the internet, although I have my footprint elsewhere in many places. If you go to my channel, you'll have to dig way back to find any Japan-related videos other than the stuff that's splashed like advertisement across the front page. Mostly, if you start going through my feed, you'll probably get 2 or 3 pages in and ask yourself, what is this guy about? All these videos with his face on them and seemingly talking about his day. Yeah, that's pretty much been me for the last 5 years, maybe. Ever since I finished writing a book called Going Alone, which I finished in 2008. It took me about 3 to 5 years of writing and editing. I've kind of forgot how much. And then after I finished the book, I needed to begin living the book. And that's what all those videos are about. So if you find my YouTube channel, you won't find much Japan. But that's going to change. I'm going back to Japan. This sojourn in the United States is over. 56 days left of work. Like 92 days left in America. Still don't have my ticket, so I'm not sure the exact day I'll leave. And I'm into countdowns and count-ups. It's a way that I found enumerating anything, particularly in life, has a way of punctuating each one of those things, and I tend to take them more seriously. I've at one time thought about naming days, which seemed very fanciful, but I found that just enumerating things towards milestone events makes the days in between tick loudly like the register of a clock. Punctuates my days. That's why you see so many numbers in my feed. So now I'm counting down the end, and when I get down to 0, I'm going to leave this land that's been my home for 11 years, and before that, the place where I was raised, Southern California. I'm ready to go. So let me tell you my story. I'm 60 years old. I was born in 1964. I'm one of the last of the baby boomers. What I mean by that is that 1964 is the last year of that generation. After that, it's the succeeding generation. I'm a boomer. Hey, boomer. My wife is too. She and I are only 3 months apart in age. My wife is Japanese. Her name is Yumiko. My name is Kurt Bell. Kurt, that's my full name. Throw a Randall in the middle if you like. Yumiko has no middle name. Japanese don't. Yumiko and I have been together since we were 24 years old, and we're both now 60, so whatever those numbers add up to. We came together as an unlikely couple, finding one another while searching for something else. Me, coming from a broken family, sent out off on my own to find my own way in a generation still reverberating from the freedom and fearful freedom of the hippies, of the hippie influence. Finding my own way, finding myself, as they say. Set off on that course when I was about 16. Yumiko, she set off to find another world. She grew up in a very small community in Japan called Yada, in the city of Shizuoka, a place where her family has lived for more than 400 years. Largely on the same piece of land. There's a graveyard there where all the people in her family are buried, or their ashes are interred. And Yumiko told me, shortly after we met, that as a high school girl she realized she had to get out of there, at least for a little while, to take a glimpse at the larger world. She couldn't say it like that. She barely spoke English, and I spoke no Japanese, but we got our meaning across after our first awkward date. I knew when I realized that she had made her escape to find the larger world on her own in spite of her family's protestations, and that I was a seeking man myself. I knew we had something more in common than hobbies or interests or culture or language or anything else. We were very deeply curious people. Expats, perhaps. That's a good way to describe it. We're both expatriates. And we found one another. I think that was around 1987, 6-ish. You can do the math. Anyway, we've been together ever since. I could say struggling through the rough parts, and the good parts, but mostly it's been average parts as a relationship. That's because Yumiko and I are both highly independent people. And don't get me wrong, we need each other, but we can sustain ourselves individually on our own. We come together to form a home and a family and a bond and the support that comes of a couple that do sincerely love each other and also find the utility of a marriage and the companionship that comes with that, as well as, of course, the foundation for the creation of a child and the raising of that child and all that that entails, to be very expeditious to our larger goals, which are to live life deep and rich, reverberating through the years in that punctuated manner, seeking after both the administered values that were given to us by our respective cultures and those values which we found on our own. More about that one later. So, in the course of, 37 years together? You do the math. My wife and I have raised a daughter, Emily Bell. She's 23 right now, soon to be 24. We raised her to adulthood, got her through school, got her through college, all the rest. And in the course of those 37 years, we've pretty much split right down the middle. Our time between Japan and America. Having raised our daughter effectively, splitting down the middle. Her time between Japan and America. Emily spending her small years in Yada and her grown years from high school on, freshman year in the United States. My goal all along, I say my goal because it wasn't Yumiko's goal. Yumiko's goal was to be a good mother and all that that entails in the strictly Japanese sense. Well, maybe not strictly. But for me, the man likens himself a poet. I wanted Emily to grow into an adult who would have a Japanese heart and an American spirit. And I think in the end, she came out just that way. So I would liken that one a success, although certainly I could have done better as a father. I wasn't a terrible father, but I certainly was distracted in my late 30s and all through my 40s and right up through the mid-50s. I wasn't as good a father as I could have been now had I started, but heaven forbid I start when I'm 60. I'd never be done. Oh, I didn't mention that part. Speaking of being done, why are we going back to America, back to Japan from America? Well, Yumiko and I, in addition to seeing our daughter finished with university, we are retiring this year. In fact, my wife retired about 3 months ago. What was it, in May 23rd, and it's currently September 12th? Yeah, you do the math. Oh, something's moving in the bushes with me. The light's off. I don't know what it is. That's okay. I think I'm the scariest thing here after all. So anyway, we're going back because we're both retiring. Yumiko's already done. She's over there. She's back in Japan, setting up house. I've got about another, I told you, didn't I tell you? I've got, 57 days, 56 days, something like that left. And then I'm going to go join her. The dogs are going too. So, the point was, I used to be a Japan-based content creator who became an American, basically obscure person making daily videos with countdowns of various sorts, ruminating on some sort of a creed that he espouses that he created somewhere in the desert. Yeah. I had a hell of an adventure while I was here. Hell of an adventure. For 14 months, I paved the way before I brought my family to join me, and I spent a lot of time in a deeper, darker, more empty, silent desert than this. And I came out of that with a story. Well, you might not call it a story. You might call it a ramble. A book of rambling chapters. But they tell a story. Trust me, they do. They were very carefully organized and arranged to tell us tale. The tale of a man going alone and then coming home. Yeah, you can take a look at the book if you're curious. It's out there. You can find it. So now the book is done. My daughter is raised. My career is done. My wife and I are 60, and we're going back. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to become again the man I was before I came to America, before I went to the desert, before I wrote Going Along, before I finally grew up after 4 decades of struggling to work and be a good husband and be a good father, which I did to my best of my ability, although I could have done better. now I'm going home to Japan to be with my wife, which company is my home, with our dogs, our daughter in Tokyo, my wife and I living a new life of freedom on the other side of the workaday life, the parental life, the struggling life, struggling mostly in my mind. Yumiko doesn't struggle much. She's had her stuff together for a long time. Well, pleased to meet you. My name is Kurt. You can call me Softypapa if you like. It's a lowercase s, please. Softypapa. It means Softy's dad. You see, Softy was my daughter's nickname when she was little. I've got a channel. Softypapa is the moniker I use there. Abandoned Japan, Real Japan Monsters, and Walking in Japan are the brands that I use there. Stoic Poetry, it's the name of one of the chapters in my book, Going Alone. It's a small chapter. Have a look if you like. It's also the name of my journal, which I write in diligently every single day. And it's also, finally, the name of my podcast, which this is episode 2, but it's episode 2 of season 3. That means that there's 2 seasons before, chock full of something very different from any of this. Have a look at season 1, if you like, for a glimpse of what I used to be before I became what I am now. And prepare to move on, away from this life, away from this country, away from this empty desert and the crickets that chirp in the night, towards a new place far away over the sea, where there's semi-cicadas and lots of adventures and very ancient places to go and discover again. Come join me if you like. Find me on YouTube. This podcast will be there. I welcome you anytime. I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks for listening to my little story for this episode. I'll leave you with a salutation from my book. Be safe, but not too safe.